beneath the weight of a relentless rain and the somber glow of streetlights. A secret had begun to unravel in a quiet suburb where every heart held a story of hope, loss, or betrayal. The story I'm about to tell you isn't merely one of broken promises or shattered trust. It's a labyrinth of whispered confessions, silent vows, and the kind of secrets that can twist a soul and reshape a life forever. I invite you to journey with me into the depths of a tale that spirals from the gentle warmth of love into a maze of mystery, suspense, and heartache. A narrative that stretches far beyond what one might expect on a seemingly ordinary night. It began on an evening that was as ordinary as any other. Anika, a gentle and hopeful woman, had always carried a quiet strength about her, a strength that was now put to the ultimate test. With her first child growing inside her, a tiny, precious promise of a future that she had dreamed about since childhood, she looked forward to a life filled with love and endless possibilities. Yet, as the days shortened and the nights grew longer, a persistent unease began to cloud her once joyful heart. There was an insidious feeling that something was amiss, a premonition that the threads of her carefully woven life were about to be torn apart. Her husband, Rohan, was a man of impeccable character, or so it seemed on the surface. A dedicated doctor whose compassion and competence had earned him respect and admiration. Rohan was the kind of man who could soothe anxieties with a gentle smile and a reassuring word. But as Anika's due date drew near, subtle inconsistencies began to reveal themselves like stray stitches in an otherwise flawless tapestry. The late nights at the hospital, the hushed phone calls when she wasn't around, and the faint, unfamiliar scent that clung to his clothes. All of these small details gradually coalesced into a pattern of deceit. It was on one such rainy night, when the skies wept quietly over the sleepy town and the world outside seemed to hold its breath, that Anika's life took a turn from the predictable to the perilous. The storm outside was a mirror to the turmoil within her, each raindrop a reminder of her growing suspicion and silent dread. Unable to shake the nagging doubt that had been festering in her heart for weeks, she made a decision that would forever alter the course of her life. Instead of confronting Rohan directly, a confrontation she feared might shatter the fragile remnants of the life they had built together, she chose to observe, to listen, and to uncover the truth on her own terms. One evening, after a long day filled with the overwhelming responsibilities of preparing for motherhood and the quiet moments of reflection that often brought more questions than answers, Anika found herself unable to sleep. The persistent ticking of the old clock on the wall served as a constant reminder of time slipping away, each tick a beat in the somber rhythm of her thoughts. With her heart pounding like a drum in the stillness of the night, she made a decision that defied both logic and the gentle advice of her inner voice. She would follow him. Despite the heaviness of her condition and the vulnerability that came with carrying a new life within her, she quietly slipped out into the stormy darkness, determined to see for herself what truths lay hidden behind closed doors. The night was a blur of shadows and muted colors as Anika trailed Rohan's car from safe distance, her eyes wide with apprehension and a deep-seated need to know. The vehicle wound through back alleys and unfamiliar streets until it came to a stop outside a modest, whitewashed house that exuded an eerie calm despite the tempest raging overhead. From the darkness, Rohan emerged, his figure blurred by the haze of rain, and he was met at the door by a woman whose very presence seemed to steal the warmth from the cold night. She was a nurse, her uniform immaculate and her smile unsettlingly serene. In that moment, the world shifted, and the truth that Anika had both feared and anticipated revealed itself in a way that no words could capture. The betrayal struck her like a bolt of lightning, illuminating every hidden corner of her life with stark, unrelenting clarity. Here was the man she had loved, the man who had vowed to be her rock, embracing every promise he had ever made. And yet, in the quiet intimacy of that unguarded moment, he had shared his affection with another, a nurse named Mira, whose very eyes sparkled with secrets and whose every gesture seemed laden with unspoken truths. For Anika, the discovery was a harrowing blend of heartache and disillusionment, a revelation that left her feeling both exposed and utterly alone. But in the midst of this crushing betrayal, a spark of determination ignited within her. Anika knew that if she were to reclaim her life and protect the fragile future growing inside her, she would have to navigate the dangerous waters of deception and hidden motives. Instead of confronting Rohan immediately, a move that might jeopardize everything, she resolved to become her own investigator, a silent observer determined to piece together every fragment of the story behind the man she once trusted implicitly. In the days that followed, Anika transformed herself into a meticulous sleuth. Every late-night return, every subtle change in Rohan's demeanor, every hushed conversation overheard in passing became a puzzle piece in a picture that was as disturbing as it was incomplete. She started by discreetly scrutinizing his phone and the small clues he left behind. Notes that were hastily scribbled, receipts from places she'd never heard of, and an inexplicable air of secrecy that permeated every corner of their shared home. Each clue was a dagger to her heart, yet also a key to unlocking a truth that was more complex and far-reaching than she had ever imagined. One crisp morning, as the golden light of dawn began to chase away the lingering shadows of the night, fate handed her a piece of evidence that would irrevocably alter her understanding of the betrayal. Hidden in the depths of Rohan's coat pocket, beneath a layer of familiar fabric that held the scent of memories, both sweet and bitter, lay a small, innocuous receipt. At first glance, it seemed like nothing more than a trivial slip of paper, but its details, an address, a date, and a hotel room number, spoke volumes to Anika's racing mind. The date on the receipt did not match the story Rohan had told her. It was from a night when he claimed to have been busy at the hospital, tending to emergencies that required his unwavering presence. And in that moment, the seed of betrayal sprouted into a full-blown realization. Rohan's fidelity was a facade, a well-constructed lie that now threatened to dismantle the life she had so carefully nurtured. Though her heart ached with the sting of betrayal, Anika refused to be a victim in a drama that she had no longer been willing to silently endure. Yet, rather than burst into a storm of accusations, she chose the slow, deliberate path of uncovering every hidden facet of this tangled web of deceit. With every encounter, every whispered conversation among the hospital staff, and every slip of the tongue that betrayed a concealed secret, she pieced together a narrative that was far more convoluted than a simple affair. It was as though every person around her, colleagues, friends, even the quiet strangers on the bus, carried a piece of the puzzle, each oblivious to the silent detective work that was unfolding in their midst. During one particularly tense visit to the hospital, Anika found herself face-to-face with a nurse whose eyes betrayed more than just professional concern. The nurse's name was Mira, a name that seemed to echo with both beauty and treachery. Mira, with her enigmatic smile and a glimmer of something unspoken behind her eyes, became the linchpin of Anika's quest for truth. In their brief encounters, Mira's answers were as polished as they were evasive, leaving Anika with a sense that beneath the veneer of professionalism lay a labyrinth of secrets waiting to be unraveled. It was in these fleeting moments, punctuated by the sterile hum of hospital life, that Anika began to suspect that the nurse was not merely a passive recipient of Rohan's affections. No, there was something far more calculated at play, a hidden agenda that intertwined their fates in ways that defied easy explanation. As days melted into weeks, the tapestry of lies that had been woven around Anika began to fray at the edges. She discovered hints of financial irregularities, mysterious phone calls made in hushed tones, and clandestine meetings in dimly lit parking garages that spoke of a conspiracy far deeper than a simple extramarital affair. Her investigation led her to pieces of evidence that suggested that Rohan's betrayal might be connected to larger forces. Forces that threatened not just her personal life, but the very fabric of the community they had built together. The deeper she dug, the more she realized that her husband's indiscretions were the tip of an iceberg that concealed a labyrinth of secrets, rivalries, and dangerous liaisons that spanned far beyond the confines of their modest home. One fateful afternoon, as the clouds gathered once again to veil the sky in a blanket of foreboding gray, Anika found herself in possession of a set of photographs that painted a chilling picture of Rohan's secret life. The images were grainy and taken from a distance, but there was no mistaking the scene. Rohan and Mira were seen together in a secluded corner of an upscale hotel, their faces illuminated by the soft, deceptive glow of dimmed lights. The shock of this discovery was magnified by the undeniable evidence that, in that moment of intimacy, there was a palpable sense of collusion, a silent acknowledgement of a betrayal that ran deeper than physical infidelity. The photographs were more than just evidence. They were a window into a world of secrets that would soon threaten to engulf Anika completely. Haunted by these revelations, Anika began to experience nights filled with dreams that blurred the lines between reality and nightmare. In her sleep, she wandered through dark corridors lined with mirrors that reflected her fragmented identity, a woman who had once been whole but now felt irreparably broken by deceit. Each morning, she awoke with a lingering sense of dread, as if the shadows of her dreams had seeped into the waking world. Yet, amidst the despair, there was a steely determination in her eyes, a resolve to confront the truth no matter how painful it might be. The climax of this unfolding drama came unexpectedly, like a sudden downpour after a long, parched drought. One evening, as the wind howled outside and the rain battered the windows of their home, Rohan returned earlier than usual. The house was shrouded in an eerie silence, a silence that spoke louder than any confrontation could. Anika, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve, finally decided that the time had come to confront him. There was no grand declaration of betrayal or dramatic outburst, only a quiet, determined questioning as she looked into his eyes and asked for the truth. The conversation that followed was a delicate dance of accusations and denials, of halting confessions and desperate attempts to salvage a crumbling facade. Rohan's voice wavered as he tried to justify his actions, weaving a tangled web of half-truths and justifications that only deepened the chasm between them. As the tension in the room grew, so did the realization that the betrayal was not merely about an illicit affair. It was about the very foundations of trust and loyalty that had once bound them together. Anika's questions dug deeper, probing into every secret meeting, every whispered phone call, every unexplained absence. And with every answer that Rohan offered, the truth became more elusive, more dangerous. A truth that hinted at a conspiracy that involved not just personal betrayal, but professional misconduct, financial manipulation, and a series of events that had been carefully orchestrated long before Anika had ever suspected anything was amiss. In the ensuing days, the once familiar walls of their home transformed into a stage for a drama that played out with the precision of a well-rehearsed tragedy. Friends and neighbors, once blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface, began to whisper among themselves, their hushed voices carrying rumors of corruption, collusion, and a betrayal that reached far beyond the confines of a single household. The local community, which had always prided itself on trust and mutual support, found itself divided as more pieces of the puzzle came to light. Some whispered that Rohan had been drawn into a dangerous game by powerful figures with hidden agendas, while others believed that the betrayal was a manifestation of personal weakness, a lapse in judgment that would ultimately lead to ruin. Through it all, Anika remained a silent observer and a reluctant participant in a drama that was rapidly spiraling out of control. In the midst of the chaos, Anika discovered a letter hidden away in an old desk, a letter that appeared to have been written by Rohan during a moment of quiet desperation. The ink was smudged with tears and regret, and the words spilled out in a torrent of emotion that painted a picture of a man torn between duty, desire, and an overwhelming sense of guilt. In that letter, Rohan confessed not only to his indiscretions, but hinted at a deeper entanglement with forces far beyond his control, an entanglement that had begun long before he had ever met Mira, the nurse whose allure had been as irresistible as it was dangerous. The letter spoke of secrets buried in the past, of alliances forged in the shadows, and of a future that now seemed as uncertain as the flickering flame of a candle in a storm. For Anika, the letter was both a bomb and a burning brand, a reminder of the love they had once shared, and a confirmation that the betrayal was only the surface of a far more intricate and perilous game. As days turned into restless nights, Anika found herself drawn into a vortex of suspense and intrigue that left no room for the ordinary. She began to question everything she had ever believed about the man she had loved and the life they had built together. Every familiar corner of her home seemed to hide secrets. Every shadow whispered of a truth that was just beyond reach. The investigation became an all-consuming quest for answers, one that led her down dark alleys of suspicion and into encounters with figures who seemed to exist solely in the periphery of her life. There was the quiet old man at the corner store, whose eyes held a knowledge that he would never speak of, the mysterious stranger who appeared in fleeting glimpses near the hospital parking lot, and a friend who once had been a confidant, but now seemed to carry secrets of their own. Each of these encounters added a new layer to the enigma, a new twist that both confounded and compelled her to keep searching. In the midst of this relentless pursuit, the lines between friend and foe blurred in ways that left Anika questioning her every judgment. Trust, once a cornerstone of her life, had become an elusive treasure, hidden behind veils of deceit and half-truths. There were moments when the weight of it all pressed so heavily upon her that she found herself questioning her own sanity, wondering if the suspicions were a manifestation of her own fears rather than a reflection of reality. But the evidence was undeniable. The lingering scent of unfamiliar perfume on Rohan's clothes, the hushed conversations he tried so desperately to keep hidden, and the growing list of inconsistencies in his stories all pointed to a betrayal that was as calculated as it was cruel. One evening, when the sky was painted with the bruised colors of an impending storm, Anika's investigation took an unexpected turn. A long-forgotten voicemail left on Rohan's phone, a message that she had discovered purely by accident, contained a series of cryptic statements that hinted at a meeting, a rendezvous with someone whose identity was cloaked in mystery. The voice on the recording was low and measured, speaking in hushed tones about the situation and the need for discretion. It was a message that sent shivers down her spine and left her wondering, was this the key to unlocking the entire conspiracy? And if so, who was the mysterious figure orchestrating events from the shadows? Driven by a need for answers that bordered on obsession, Anika began to follow the trail of clues with a singular focus. Late one night, armed with nothing more than her determination and a notebook filled with cryptic observations, she ventured into a part of the city she had never seen before. The streets were narrow and winding, the buildings old and steeped in history, and every corner seemed to whisper of secrets long buried. As she walked, her mind churned with questions about Rohan, about Mira, about the hidden forces that had so irreversibly altered the course of her life. The urban labyrinth was both a metaphor and a reality, a maze where every turn led to more mysteries and every shadow held the promise of danger. In the heart of this unfamiliar corridor, she stumbled upon an inconspicuous cafe, its sign faded by time and neglect. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with a sense of bygone eras, a time when trust was given freely and secrets were guarded with the utmost care. It was here that she encountered an elderly man, a relic of a past long since forgotten, who spoke in a voice as soft as a sigh yet laden with the weight of countless memories. His eyes, deep pools of sorrow and wisdom, met hers, and for a fleeting moment, the chaotic world around them fell silent. In hushed tones, he hinted at a truth that was too vast to be contained in a single lifetime, a truth about betrayal, redemption, and the unyielding force of fate. His cryptic words, delivered with the precision of someone who had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, left Anika both shaken and strangely resolute. Here was someone who had seen it all, someone who understood that every act of betrayal, no matter how deeply it cut, was also a stepping stone toward hidden destiny. Armed with this newfound perspective, Anika's quest for answers became a journey into the very heart of human nature itself. Every piece of evidence she uncovered was now interwoven with the threads of destiny. Every revelation a reminder that the universe often works in mysterious ways. The betrayal, as painful and devastating as it was, had forced her to confront not only the man she had once loved, but also the shadows within herself. In those long, sleepless nights, she began to understand that the truth was not a simple binary of right and wrong, but a complex tapestry of motives, choices, and unforeseen consequences. As the days grew shorter and the chill of autumn began to seep into every crevice of her life, the investigation took an even more perilous turn. An anonymous note arrived at her doorstep, an unmarked envelope containing a single piece of paper on which were scrawled coordinates and a time. The note was as mysterious as it was ominous, and despite the gnawing fear that tugged at her every instinct, Anika knew that ignoring it was not an option. With trembling hands and a heart that beat like a frantic drum, she resolved to follow this new lead, even if it meant venturing into territories where the lines between reality and nightmare blurred. The location pointed her to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, a decaying monument to forgotten times, where the silence was broken only by the echoes of past lives and the distant sound of dripping water. As she stepped into the cavernous space, the air thick with dust and the remnants of old secrets, every nerve in her body screamed in alarm. But the truth, as she had come to realize, was not something to be feared. It was something that demanded to be faced head-on, no matter how painful the revelations might be. Inside the warehouse, under the flickering light of a lone, overhead bulb, Anika encountered a figure cloaked in shadow. The meeting was brief, yet charged with an intensity that seemed to stretch time itself. The mysterious informant spoke in a low, urgent tone, revealing fragments of a story that were as startling as they were confounding. According to him, the betrayal was merely the surface of a vast conspiracy, one that involved powerful figures, covert operations, and a web of deceit that extended far beyond the confines of their little town. The pieces of the puzzle, it turned out, were scattered across the lives of those who had once trusted one another implicitly, and every clue uncovered was a testament to a betrayal that transcended personal relationships. In that cold, echoing warehouse, as the informant's words hung in the stale air, Anika's heart hardened with a resolve that was as unyielding as steel. The revelation was both a curse and a blessing. A curse, because it confirmed her worst fears about the man she had loved, and a blessing, because it provided her with the means to expose a truth that had long been hidden in the shadows. With the informant's cryptic directions etched into her memory, she left the warehouse, determined to piece together the final fragments of a mystery that had come to define her very existence. Every subsequent day felt like a race against time, a frantic scramble to gather evidence, confront hidden adversaries, and navigate a maze of deceit that threatened to overwhelm her at every turn. The more she discovered about Rohin's double life, the deeper she plunged into a world of clandestine meetings and whispered threats. The quiet, reassuring home she had once known had transformed into a battlefield of secrets, where every smile masked ulterior motives and every gesture carried the weight of unspoken alliances. Friends became suspects, and even strangers seemed to harbor hidden agendas, all conspiring in ways that defied logic and reason. In the midst of this chaos, the person who had once been her pillar of strength had become an enigma, a man whose every word was now suspect, and whose every action seemed to be part of a larger, more sinister design. Yet, despite the overwhelming sense of betrayal, Anika began to see glimmers of the person Rohin had once been. There were moments when his eyes, for just a fleeting second, revealed a depth of sorrow and regret that hinted at a past filled with pain and sacrifice. It was in those moments that she wondered if the betrayal was not born of simple infidelity, but was the result of forces beyond his control. Forces that had driven him to make choices that ultimately doomed them both. With the investigation now stretching into dangerous territories, Anika found herself entangled in a delicate dance of revelation and concealment. She forged unlikely alliances with individuals who had their own scores to settle with those who lurked in the shadows, and with each new piece of evidence, the tapestry of deception grew ever more intricate. The stakes had risen far beyond the confines of personal betrayal. Now, entire lives were at risk, and the silent hand of fate seemed to be guiding her every step. The trail of clues led her to secret meetings in nondescript locations, coded messages that only a few could decipher, and a series of events that hinted at a conspiracy so vast that even the most imaginative minds would struggle to comprehend its scope. As the autumn leaves turned and fell, each one a silent testament to the passage of time and the inevitability of change, Anika reached a point of no return. The investigation had become more than a quest for truth. It had become a fight for survival, for the future of the child growing inside her, and for the very soul of a woman who had once believed in the sanctity of love. Every unanswered question, every lingering doubt, was a ghost that haunted her steps, urging her to dig deeper even as the shadows grew darker and the dangers more imminent. In one climactic moment, when the wind howled like a living thing and the sky itself seemed to weep for the broken hearts below, Anika found herself face to face with the culmination of her journey. In a deserted parking lot beneath a flickering street lamp, she confronted Rohan once more. The conversation that ensued was a storm of emotions, a collision of truths and lies that reverberated through the very air. With eyes that had once held the promise of unconditional love now brimming with a mixture of despair and determination, she demanded answers that had been long overdue. Rohan's responses were fragmented, each word a reluctant admission of guilt and a desperate attempt to justify choices that had hurt her more deeply than words could ever convey. In that fraught moment, as the tension reached its zenith and every heartbeat pounded with the weight of 1,000 unspoken regrets, Anika realized that the truth was a many-headed serpent, each revelation leading to yet another twist in the labyrinth of their lives. It was no longer about the betrayal alone, but about a series of interlocking deceptions that had ensnared them both, leaving a trail of heartbreak and shattered dreams in their wake. And yet, even as she stood there, battered by the onslaught of confessions and half-truths, she clung to the hope that in the ruins of their once perfect world, there might still be a way to reclaim the fragments of her own identity and forge a future that was not defined by betrayal. The days that followed were a blur of sorrow, anger, and a desperate search for redemption. Anika threw herself into the investigation with a fervor that bordered on the obsessive, determined to unearth every hidden detail, every piece of evidence that could explain not only Rowan's actions, but also the larger web of deceit that had enveloped their lives. She pored over old records, revisited places that once held fond memories, and found herself drawn into conversations with people who had long since retreated into the shadows of the past. With every discovery, the mystery deepened, a series of interlocking events that painted a picture of a man caught between his own desires and the crushing weight of obligations that he had never fully understood. In the quiet moments, when the storm outside seemed to echo the turmoil within her, Anika began to reconcile the disparate pieces of her life. She acknowledged that the betrayal, as devastating as it was, had also awakened a dormant strength within her, a resilience forged in the crucible of heartbreak and loss. It was a realization that allowed her to see beyond the immediate pain, to glimpse a future where she might reclaim her own narrative, free from the shackles of deception. Every tear shed, every sleepless night, became a stepping stone toward a newfound understanding of herself. A woman who had been forced to confront the darkest corners of her soul, only to emerge with a clarity and determination that could move mountains. In that slow, relentless march toward the truth, Anika discovered allies in the most unexpected places. A former colleague of Rohan's who had grown disillusioned with the secrets of the medical establishment, a neighbor whose quiet observations hinted at hidden layers beneath everyday interactions, and even a reclusive artist whose paintings captured the raw emotion of a fractured heart. Each of these individuals, though bound by their own painful pasts, contributed to the mosaic of evidence that would one day expose the intricate conspiracy behind Rohan's betrayal. Their shared determination to uncover the truth became a beacon of hope in a world darkened by lies, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming betrayal, the human spirit could find a way to heal and rise again. As winter's chill crept into the very bones of the town, Anika's quest reached a turning point. The final pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, revealing a connection that was as shocking as it was undeniable. In a quiet moment of revelation, she learned that the affair was merely a diversion, a meticulously orchestrated ruse designed to conceal a far more sinister plot. Rohan, it appeared, had been coerced into a series of actions that implicated him in a web of corruption and clandestine dealings. The nurse, Mira, was not just a willing participant in an illicit liaison, but a key figure in a shadowy network that operated with impunity. Their secret meetings, the hush phone calls, and the discreet exchanges of documents were all part of a larger scheme. A scheme that threatened to upend the delicate balance of power in their community and cast a pall over the lives of countless innocent people. Faced with the magnitude of this revelation, Anika found herself at a crossroads. The betrayal that had once seemed so personal now revealed itself to be just one facet of a grand, almost insidious design. It was a design that spanned beyond the intimate confines of her marriage and reached into the highest echelons of power, where money, ambition, and corruption intertwined in a dance as old as time. And in that realization, she understood that her fight was no longer solely for the truth about Rohan's infidelity. It was a battle for justice, for the integrity of the community she had always believed in, and for the future of the child who depended on her unwavering courage. In the final throes of her investigation, as she stood on the precipice of exposing a conspiracy that had long been hidden in plain sight, Anika summoned every ounce of strength she possessed. The journey had been long and arduous, a journey marked by moments of despair, unexpected allies, and revelations that shattered the very foundations of her world. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, she found a sense of clarity and purpose that illuminated even the darkest corners of her existence. With the evidence meticulously compiled and the truth finally within her grasp, she resolved to confront those responsible, to expose the intricate web of deceit that had ensnared her family, and to reclaim not just her own life, but the future that had been stolen from her by forces beyond her control. And so, as the final curtain of betrayal slowly fell away, Anika prepared herself for the ultimate confrontation, a showdown that would determine the fate of everything she held dear. With her heart steeled by the trials of her journey, and with the promise of a new beginning burning like a beacon in the distance, she stepped forward into the unknown. It was a step that carried the weight of sorrow and regret, yet also the undeniable spark of hope, a hope that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, truth and resilience could pave the way for redemption. In that one long, continuous stretch of fate and free will, every whispered secret, every stolen glance, and every painful revelation converged into a singular moment of reckoning, a moment when the past and the present collided, and the future hung in the balance like a fragile thread. And as Anika faced the man who had once been her everything, her eyes, though filled with unshed tears, held a determination that spoke louder than words, a determination to unearth every hidden truth, to confront every betrayal, and to emerge from the shadows reborn. It is said that the truth, once revealed, cannot be unseen, etched forever into the tapestry of one's soul. For Anika, the journey had been one of unimaginable loss and profound discovery, a journey that had transformed her from a woman defined by betrayal into a warrior of her own destiny. And as the storm outside gave way to a tentative calm, the promise of a new dawn shimmered on the horizon, a dawn where the scars of yesterday would give way to the healing light of tomorrow, and where every whispered secret would finally be laid bare for all to see. So listen well, dear friend, as this tale weaves its way into the depths of your heart, a tale of love that turned bitter, of trust betrayed, and of a mystery so vast that it challenged the very boundaries of fate itself. In the quiet aftermath of heartbreak, in the space between the falling raindrops and the breaking of the new day, remember that even the deepest wounds can be mended by the light of truth. And as you carry this story with you, may it serve as a reminder that the most profound journeys are not those that take us to far-off lands, but those that force us to confront the hidden truths within our own souls. And in doing so, allow us to rise from the ashes of despair, stronger and more resilient than ever before. Every word of this narrative, every painstaking detail of betrayal and revelation, is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. A spirit that, despite the darkest betrayals and the most intricate webs of deceit, continues to search for the light of truth, to hold on to hope, and to build a future where even the deepest wounds can ultimately lead to new beginnings. And so, in the echo of every whispered confession and every silent tear shed in the stillness of the night, there lies a promise that no matter how tangled the threads of fate may become, the story of redemption is one that is always worth telling again and again, until every secret is laid bare and every soul finds its way home. The narrative continues, weaving every moment of suspense, every twist of betrayal, and every heartbeat of determination into a tapestry that spans countless hours, each moment building upon the last, until the cumulative weight of every revelation and every hidden secret reaches the inexorable climax of a destiny that was never meant to be denied. And as the final light of day fades into the embrace of twilight, the truth stands revealed. A truth that binds the past to the future in a single, unbroken narrative of love, loss, and the enduring hope that lies within the human heart.